Let's bring in Greg Sheridan, foreign editor at The Australian. Greg, what do you make of this law and order debate that's unfolding right now, and what was a clear shift from Joe Biden's language?
Well, Kieran, I think it is the first really strong pro-Trump move we've seen in this election. So the polls are very unreliable, but when all the polls move in one direction, I think it's fair to discern a trend. And after the Republican convention, all the polls moved in Trump's direction. So the battleground states now, Trump is just a tick over 2% behind Biden. He was substantially worse than that at this stage against Clinton. So that means it's a very live contest. Now, the criticism of the Democrats and of Joe Biden for failing to condemn the violence, for going along with the Black Lives Matter movement, which has an extremely radical Marxist official ideology, and for taking identity politics too far, for racializing every aspect of politics, and for kind of giving a wink and a nod to violence against property at the very least. That was devastating. So Joe Biden has been flushed out of hiding. He's had to emerge from his basement. He had one shocking encounter with CNN the other night where he just completely lost the train of his thought again. But he's had to come out and take a strong position now condemning the violence. Now, people will say, he was forced into this, and this is not where the Democrats really are at. But nonetheless, Biden had no other move available to him because this issue was killing him. And as people said to your colleague on that lead-in segment, that guy said he was 50-50, but now he's going to vote straight-line Republican. All the sympathy has moved away from Black Lives Matter and has moved towards law and order and towards the police. So this is a very sharp turn in this campaign. Won't be the last sharp turn, and it may not be definitive, but this is a very significant pro-Trump movement over the last week.
And what about you spoke about the Biden interview on CNN. He's been brought out to engage more. He's going to be tested increasingly over the next few months, including the much anticipated debates.
He sure will. So normally an American presidential debate is the most searching experience, the most physically and mentally grueling thing that a human being could do. But for Biden, it's been a rest home. He's just been resting in his basement. Now, Trump, although some of the things he says are crazy and some of the things he says are offensive, he is a ball of energy all the time. He's out every minute of every day doing his stuff. Now, probably the last time a television debate was really important in a US presidential election was way back in 1980, where Ronald Reagan defined Jimmy Carter as intolerant and foolish. But this debate could be very important because Biden is just so unimpressive on his feet. Now, he'll benefit from very low expectations, but he will now have 2 months where he cannot hide in the basement. It's still unfortunate that he's not having to encounter unscripted questions from journalists who don't necessarily support him. But this will be a much more searching examination of Biden than he's had so far. He's still well ahead, but this is a dangerous period for Biden now, and these debates will be more important than they have been in any recent election.
So we will discuss more on the US next week when we catch up, but I do want to get your insights on Japan. Abe has been such a towering figure in our region for a long time, the longest serving Japanese Prime Minister. What are the implications of his departure?
The resignation of Shinzo Abe is a tragedy for our region. No leader goes on forever, and we couldn't expect Abe to go on forever. But Abe has been the most important figure in Indo-Pacific politics. He's been the single most important person in keeping the US alliance system going outside of the Americans themselves. He's been the best Trump whisperer in Asia, and I would say second only to Israel. But more important, something else we should recognise, Shinzo Abe has been a deep and true friend to Australia. He decided very early on that Australia was important to Japan. He sees us clearly. He likes us. There's something in Australia that he likes very much. He went through all the different prime ministers we had in his term: Gillard, Rudd, Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison. He kept building a better and better relationship with Australia. The free trade agreement, gave a magnificent address to our parliament in 2014. I'm sure you remember it. The security agreement. He is a very canny foe of the Chinese, and no new Japanese leader will have his political authority, and certainly none of them will have the kind of personal relationship he built up with Trump. I mean, nobody is indispensable. No democratic leader lasts forever. But we should just pause as a nation and recognise the passing of one of the best friends Australia has ever had in this region, and one of the best friends security has ever had in the Indo-Pacific. We'll miss him when he's gone.
Greg Sheridan, thank you. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it. And Shinzo Abe took Donald Trump a gold driver, a golf club, to Trump Tower before he was even sworn in. So obviously took it very seriously from the outset to win over President Trump.